Hey guys, welcome back to the Can We Get Back to Politics podcast with Cece and Meredith. And today we are going to be talking about tariffs. And this is our 8th episode and final episode for this school year. And hopefully we will start posting more podcast episodes next school year when we have free time. But this is our final episode for now, so don't expect any podcast episodes coming out during the summer. But yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so to start off, for anyone who doesn't know, tariffs are a form of tax on imports from other countries. So, like, if you're buying something in the U.S., but it's from, like, you're buying it from a different country, like, it has to be shipped from somewhere else, then, like, there's an extra tax on it. And according to the Council on Foreign Relations, economists say the costs are largely passed on to consumers, which is sort of what I just said. Countries have used them to protect domestic industries such as agriculture and renewable energy, as well as to retaliate against other states' unfair trade practices. And in his second term, Trump is again wielding tariffs in pursuit of goals such as stopping drug trafficking, competing with China, and reducing the U.S. trade deficit. So on that note, I'm going to talk a little bit about Trump's policies with tariffs, like the recent ones. So on April 2nd, he declared a national emergency because, quote, large and persistent U.S. goods trade deficits. And I got this from the White House webpage, by the way. And so Trump's administration is arguing that these deficits have eroded domestic manufacturing capacity, weakened critical supply chains, and made the defense industrial base dependent on foreign adversaries. So he put a baseline tariff of 10% on all imports, which was effective on the 5th. For reciprocal tariffs, which are higher, like tariffs that are put on like individual things, like certain things only, on countries with which the U.S. has had the largest trade deficits, which was effective on the 9th of April. So basically, these tariffs will be in effect until the president determines that the trade deficit and underlying non-reciprocal treatment are resolved or mitigated. And so, yeah. So for this episode, we decided to get a bunch of our peers and like teachers at our school, and then our peers from our school, opinions and experiences with tariffs and their opinions on them. We asked them all what their opinion is on tariffs generally, and if they've been affected by tariffs in the last few months, like as Trump's new policy has been implemented. So you can listen to some of our interviews now. Have you been affected by tariffs in the last few months? And if so, how? And what are your general opinions on them?
So I think for me personally, like probably not, because I don't do like a lot of like online shopping, or I don't like really like, do like a lot of things that would be affected by the increase in tariffs. But I think overall, I would say I definitely like disagree with them. I just feel like I didn't really understand like why like the Trump administration would like take such a strong stance on it, just for them to like retrace and like almost like undo like majority of like what they did with them. So for me, it just like it didn't really make a lot of sense, and I didn't really agree on them. But I don't think it's the biggest deal because I don't feel too affected by them.
So I personally have kind of been affected by tariffs, only in like the only things that I've invested in, like I invested in NVIDIA, and immediately after the tariffs it went down a lot, but after like the renegotiations it's gone back up. But in my daily life, like when going to the supermarket, it hasn't really affected me, but I think it's definitely like a big important aspect of politics right now, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Honestly, it hasn't affected me a whole lot, but I do a lot of just like price watching, wondering like when I should buy new things, so just monitoring the scene. I'm fortunate enough to not like have to make major purchases right now, so like I can sort of wait things out a little bit. But I am very confused by the current policy. I don't really understand what the purpose totally is. It seems like they keep on shifting the goalposts, whether it's like sometimes you hear, oh, it's to bring jobs back and manufacturing back to the U.S., and then it's also to like get better deals with other countries, and that sort of seems in conflict to me. Like if it seems like it should be one or the other, and like it keeps on changing based on like his mood or something. I don't really know. I shouldn't project, but I find it very confusing and hard to understand. So yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alex Stamos. Personally, tariffs have sort of, in the most major way, impacted my stock portfolio. I typically buy a lot of stocks where I can just like passively look at them. With the new tariffs, I've kind of like had to be checking them day to day and like constantly be refining it and redistributing where my assets are at. And wait, what was the other question?
What are your general opinions on them, and if you like think they're good or bad?
I think they can be a powerful tool when used correctly for international relations. Whether or not this like whole gambit Trump's trying to play is going to pay off, we're going to see. Right now, it's not really benefiting a lot of people. So, sounds good. Right now it's not really benefiting anyone. So, the current state of tariffs pretty bad, but we'll see.
Well, I ordered a prom dress from a different country, and in order to ship it back, it cost me a lot of money to return it. And they didn't tell me that beforehand. My mom was not happy with me.
My stance is that this is a poor choice. I keep thinking about the scene from Ferris Bueller where they're talking about tariffs in the 20s. Yes, they have affected me. I feel I see it more with groceries. Like, I feel like my groceries are, like, way more expensive than I'm used to them being. I haven't purchased a lot of stuff recently. No new bikes, not a lot of, not big-ticket items that I have noticed it. But my husband has noticed, like, an increase in cost of tools that he is... that he markets for Stanley Black & Decker. So it's out there. Things are going up. It's going to be an expensive 4 years.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's going to be an expensive decade.
So after interviewing some of our peers, I think what we gathered from that was that most of the teachers and faculty members that we interviewed were obviously affected by these tariffs, and most of them said that they were not a fan of tariffs because when they're buying bigger products or anything for different countries, making big purchases, it's really not a good thing, and it's really increasing the prices of things. But for the students, obviously, like, their parents are buying those big purchases for them, and they don't really have to worry about that. And it's obviously not the case for a lot of young kids in America. They might have to buy those things for themselves, but in the case for the students at our school, that's like the most present thing is that their parents are buying things for them, so they're not really affected by it. But also, a lot of the students that we have talked to are not a fan of tariffs and don't really understand why they're being implemented.
Also, a lot of students who have stock profiles talked about how it's, we had a couple students talk about this, how it's affecting their stocks. And so that was also something that was interesting to hear because, like, I know that, like, my brother invests in stocks, so, like, I'm sure he's seen, like, a decline too. And I'm just talking about kids. My dad does too, but, like, haven't talked to him about it. But, yeah, I just think it's interesting to see that too because it doesn't just have to do with, like, purchasing things. It affects other things as well, the economy in general.
And another thing that we heard from some of our friends was that some of them aren't really sure what tariffs really are, but they really do not like them because their clothes are more expensive. For example, Triangle Swimsuits, which is a very popular swimsuit brand for teens right now, and it almost doubled the price for those swimsuits. And so one of our friends is not a fan of tariffs because her swimsuits got a lot more expensive, which is really not that much of a worry, because you obviously do not need to buy swimsuits that are that expensive. But I think that shows how it's still present for some students who don't even know what tariffs are.
Yeah, it's affecting everyone.
So my take on tariffs is that I really don't understand why they're being implemented, because I really don't think that it's really doing any good. I know a lot of people I've heard say that it's going to work out in the long term, and I really don't think it will. And also the teacher who we talked about how she's noticed a lot of changes and increasing of groceries and of other big purchases, which obviously is probably going to be very present for the next 4 years, and I don't think that it's going to help with any relations with countries. And I think what Trump is saying is he's kind of switching his decision on like why he's implementing these tariffs, and there's a couple different reasons, and it's like, what's the main reason? And I don't really understand how it's going to help us with any relations with other countries or strengthening that bond. I really just don't think it's going to help at all, and it's just making a lot of things more expensive for people, and it's just all coming back to the consumer. So yeah, I don't really think it's doing any good. And obviously we also talk to kids who have money in the stock market and how that really impacted them negatively when tariffs were first implemented. But obviously after some negotiations that Trump made, it got better. But I really don't think that's going to stay consistent, and I think it's just going to get worse or inconsistent, and it's really not working out for them in the end. And also, like, it's still not back to normal. Like, they're still having struggles. And obviously the one kid we talked to who has to check their stocks more often because of all of this, and it's really just making a negative impact on a lot of people.
Okay, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, our last episode for the school year. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to our podcast throughout the semester. We had a really fun time making it, and we're definitely hoping to continue next year in our free time, since this was for a school project, but we're going to, I think, hopefully continue on our own time next year. So thank you for listening this week. Bye, guys.
Bye.